And I'm going to get back into Zoom. Hello, and welcome to Influential Thursday again. So if you had tuned in earlier, you would realize that we had a few technical difficulties. But see, that's what we do as women. We don't ever give up, right?
That's right.
So what we're doing, we're going to start the live all over again. And this time, stronger and better. And should technology decide to do otherwise, guess what? We're going to start over again. But we're trusting that this is it. So if you're just tuning in, let me thank you for tuning in to the Influential Thursday on the Joan Henry Show. And tonight I have with me special guest, Jamela Kemp, and she's going to be talking to you from the standpoint of how to start and maintain a nonprofit organization. So if you're new to Influential Thursday, this show is designed to bring you a weekly series of exciting programs that will inform, educate, and inspire you to start or take your business to another level. We cover topics such as mindset, creative thinking, walking in your purpose, and a host of other motivational and business topics. Okay, so tonight's influential quote is from Duke Ellington, and he said, "Life has two rules. Number one, never quit. Number two, always remember number one." Right? I love it. So before I bring on my featured guest, I would like to invite you to tell you about my nonprofit organization, which is called RISA Incorporated. And the website for you to learn a whole lot more is at www.risawomen.org. And I will type that information in the feed once I'm done. Now, this nonprofit organization, it helps to connect women and girls to an array of services in the community, whether it's domestic violence services, homeless services, teaching financial literacy, and a host of, you just have to visit the website to see all that RISA organization is about. But I would like for you to be on the lookout for some upcoming fundraising events that we will be hosting for RISA. And of course, you don't have to wait until the fundraiser to donate. You can do so through our secure website. And if you are in the DMV, I am looking for a very generous person or persons to donate a space that I may host some of these fundraising events. We have a few fundraisers, throughout the year, and I would appreciate, someone offering a space for us to host events. The good book says you have not because you ask not. So I'm asking, and I hope that you're ready to give. So without further ado, like I said earlier, my amazing guest is Jamela Kemp, and I will now have her to introduce herself to you. See, I know Jamela. I know that she's the guru of nonprofit, but guess what? You are about to find that out for yourself. So Jamela, how are you today? And welcome to Influential Thursday.
Thank you so much. I am awesome. Thank you again for having me here to share with the tribe. And yes, we will keep doing this until we get it right, but all is well, all is well. So again, I am Jamela Kemp. I am the owner and principal consultant of Jamela Kemp Consulting, which I've been operating for the past 5 years, where I help regular everyday people with an amazing vision to improve their communities, to get that nonprofit vision out of their head, put it on paper, and transform it into a viable and sustainable nonprofit organization. I started a nonprofit myself 8 years ago called It Takes Two Incorporated, and we award scholarships to students that live in single parent homes. And those scholarships pay for school supplies, books, uniforms, academic and sports registration fees as well. And to date, we have awarded 21 scholarships totaling over $6,500 with the help of our amazing community. And we are getting ready to enter into our 9th scholarship season on April 1st. And we just celebrated 8 years in service on February 1st. I also work for a nonprofit during the day, and I have a master's in nonprofit and association management. So I sleep, eat, and breathe nonprofits. But this is my way of giving back, not only through the organization that I started, but also through the 30 organizations that I've been blessed to assist in helping launch their visions as well.
Awesome. And just to add to that, you helped me with my nonprofit as well. You provide training to my board of directors. So like I said, viewers, I'm not speaking from a standpoint of not knowing who I'm speaking to. I have, done business with her. She has trained my board and she has so much to offer. So I hope that at the end of this broadcast that you will find her, follow her, seek her out, because she has a lot of information that you truly can benefit from. Okay. So Jamela, what does it mean? What does a nonprofit organization mean?
Okay, so a nonprofit organization is what I focus on is a 501c3 nonprofit public charity. And it's a business, and you're incorporated at the state level. And your ultimate goal, though, is to deliver services. You identify your service population, you identify your mission and your vision, and you set to implement activities that are going to bring your vision to life and ultimately change the lives of those who you're serving. Now, of course, not all nonprofit service people. They may focus on the environment, or they may focus on, animals or whatever it may be, but you have a vision, you have a plan, you have a strategic plan, and you have funding streams so that you can fund the organization, because a nonprofit is a business. It operates very much like the corporate structure, but with some major differences that we'll probably go into tonight. But it has this business structure of being incorporated. You have to register with the state as an organization. Then if you want to seek the 501c3 status from the IRS, you then have to complete the appropriate application to receive that status.
Okay, awesome. So what are the most important things to consider when starting a nonprofit?
Okay, before you start, the very first thing is knowing your why. Why do you want to start this organization? For me, it was simple in that it was something personal that I was struggling with. And a lot of nonprofits are started because the founder is either struggling with something, him or herself, or they've identified some problem in their community that they want to provide an innovative solution for. So you first have to really ask yourselves, why do I want to start this organization? The why will help to formulate the mission, the vision, and those strategic goals that I speak with my clients about on how they're going to bring this vision to life. I will also say that the why is going to be the reason and the fuel for you to continue launching this organization when there is no money, when there is no support, when the board you thought was there is not really there, and when the people you thought were going to support you don't show up. So your why is going to be what fuels it. It's going to be the reason why you get up every single day and why you continue to push forward. Okay, so once you've clearly identified your why, you then want to focus on who is my passion population, or what is my passion project? What keeps you up at night? What that is happening in society that you want to provide a solution for? Or what are you personally struggling with that you know someone else is struggling with, and help them to provide a solution? Okay, that is going to help you to identify your passion population. And you have to have a heart for who you're going to serve, right? And this work that we do in nonprofit work, I really do call it a ministry, because we are servants at heart. So when you're trying to identify who you want to serve, be sure that that's clear, and be sure that there are resources available not only to them, but what you're going to be providing to them as well. Okay, so for right now, we have our why and we have our who. Next thing we want to do is identify how we're going to serve them. Let's say our passion population are homeless veterans, or even just the homeless persons. How are you going to support them? Are you working to provide a shelter, a transitional home? Are you going to just provide them with food and clothing, workforce development? How are you going to do that? Okay. And then last, you realize that you have to have a team. You cannot do this by yourself. Even if you wanted to, you couldn't, because by law, you do have to have a board of directors because no one owns a nonprofit, right? So getting that team together can be the hardest part because everyone says yes until they have to understand what they really have to do. And in life may make things completely different for them. So just to recap, first is to know your why. Second is to know your who. Third is to know how you're going to serve them. And last, the fact that you need to have a team. So start thinking about who those people are that can serve on your board of directors.
So let me just throw this one in there. You mentioned no one owns a nonprofit. Do you want to elaborate on that just a little bit more?
Yes, thank you for that. That's one of my misconceptions. Okay, so all day, every day, we will always be the founder. We will always be the visionary. God gave us this vision to launch an organization to do whatever we've decided to do. However, nonprofits are community serving and community facing. As founders, you and I do not own the organizations that we start because we're not starting the organization for personal benefit. We are starting the organization to benefit the community, a particular population, or some sort of cause. That also removes the whole what's in it for me, where I can personally benefit from this organization, as you could for the for-profit world. So here's an example. With Jamila Kim Consulting, I pretty much do what I want because it's a for-profit organization. I'm serving others, but I'm also personally benefiting from that financially, right? I can do that as an LLC. However, as a nonprofit organization, I do not make all the decisions. I do not own It Takes Two Incorporated. I answer to the board as the CEO. I am their employee, quote unquote. So please, if nothing else is taken away from this training or this conversation tonight, no one owns a nonprofit. Instead, what we should say is I lead a nonprofit organization. I'm a founder of a nonprofit organization. I'm the executive director, the president. Talk with your titles and the actions that you're going to do, and not say I have or I own a nonprofit, because they belong to the community.
Okay, okay. So while that was one of the misconceptions, what are some of the other misconceptions about owning a nonprofit, or
Well,
even starting one for that matter?
Well, this idea that once you get that IRS determination letter, that the windows of heaven are just going to open up and all the money just comes down. I wish it did. I'm in your shoes, so you know exactly where I'm coming from when I say that. The money will come. And that IRS determination letter is the gateway. It opens the door to the funding, right? But it doesn't make you qualified to receive anything just yet. It makes you eligible, but not qualified. Why? Because we're asking the public to use their disposable income to invest in this organization, in the vision. We need to show something first. We need to show that we are dedicated, we're committed, we have a plan, that we're actually doing work and we're not just collecting money and sitting on it. I'll be the first one to say that your organization can have millions of dollars coming in, but if you're not creating impact, if you don't have one or two testimonials for people to say, you know what, because of your organization, I'm better because, then you might as well just close the doors because you're not fulfilling your own mission. We have to deliver impact. We have to show up. We have to execute, we have to be strategic, and we have to use the public money for what we say we're going to use it for. So the IRS determination letter is important and it does open the door, but money is just not going to flow just yet. We have to put in work. Okay, so that's the number one misconception. Another misconception is nonprofits cannot make money. I don't know where that came from. We need revenue and we need multiple streams of it. We are a business. Just like Walmart, Target, Sam's Club, they have revenue. They have expenditures as well, so do we. Now, the term that we cannot use is profit. So nonprofits don't make a profit necessarily, but we do have a surplus, okay? At the end of every fiscal year, we can't just break even. That is not the road to sustainability. We have to create multiple streams of income that will allow us to carry a surplus year after year after year, so that we can grow to the Susan G. Komens and AARPs and Red Crosses. Their CEOs make healthy salaries because they have a healthy operational budget. Okay, so we have to think very much like a business while we're doing good as well. Another misconception is I already alluded to it, that you cannot do it by yourself. But I think what a lot of people do is they go with who they know. And that's usually board family members and friends. When you're looking at board members, it's not the best route, because the board needs to be representative of the population that you're serving. Remember, this is a community organization, so the community should be represented on your board. So that's not going to be family members and friends. And I highly discourage you from just putting their names on the application just to push the application through, because when it's time to do work and for people to show up and be strategic, you don't have that skill set around the table. Okay, so be strategic about who you're going to have on your board of directors. And the last misconception, again, is that people could think of it as a hobby, or people don't take it seriously. If you launch and you raise your hand to serve, they are going to expect for you to show up.
Okay, well said. So what are the, share with us at least maybe 3 don'ts when starting a nonprofit organization?
Okay, so don't go into it blind. Google is amazing. And as long as you're using reputable sources, you can find the information that you need. Do some research before you launch. Attend a business class. Volunteer at a nonprofit to see kind of what that world looks like. Ask some questions. Attend free webinars. Just connect with someone who's operating a nonprofit, or just save up the money to find a consultant to help you do the work. This is not a shameless plug. I'm not just promoting myself, but find someone to assist you in this process so that you can go into it knowledgeable. So don't go into it just completely blind because you have this amazing vision and you want to give back. You do want to have some knowledge in the industry that you're entering, okay? Another don't is don't move forward without having that board in place, okay? I hear a lot, very often, I'm doing everything by myself. That's not the way it's supposed to be, okay? If you cannot find qualified board candidates, then take a pause and find those individuals before moving forward. There are plenty of resources out there. Boardsource.org is a major resource that I use. It's the #1 go-to when you're looking for board information for board members. Go there. If you do have your 501c3 status and you're in need of board members, maybe you're in your recruitment season, or maybe you just need to replace board members, you can post up your volunteer position on boardsource.org to find candidates. You can do the same thing on volunteermatch.org, okay? So there are many volunteer job boards out there, so you don't have to do this by yourself. And last is, don't forget to lead in the manner in which you would follow, okay? If you are yes, let me say that again. So don't forget to lead in the manner in which that you would follow. If you would not follow this person, then don't lead that way, okay? Because we're starting an organization and operating an organization, we are the leader of that organization on the business side, on the day-to-day side. So we have to learn our leadership style. And this is something that I've learned through trial and error. I didn't take any classes necessarily in leadership, but operating this organization for 8 years, I've learned a lot about who I am and how I lead and who I choose to follow. So ask yourself, would I follow me? And if your answer is no, that may just mean you need to take a step back, maybe take a couple of leadership classes, get a couple of books, and really dig deep in figuring out who you are as a leader, because that comes with the responsibility of starting a nonprofit as well.
Okay. So what are some of the advantages of a nonprofit organization?
So this is the good stuff. So,
yay, good stuff.
So you do all the work, you plan, you do everything legal, you got your 501c3 status, you got a good board, you guys are ready to go. So the first major advantage is that you don't have to necessarily go after loans. As you know, in the for-profit world, what we typically do is go to the bank, get a line of credit so we can start to scale the organization at some point, right? So that's not our first go-to. Our first go-to is the ability to get funding from the public and from organizations. So getting grants and funding is a major advantage in the fact that we can use other people's resources to grow the organization to do good. Another advantage is that as nonprofits, most of our income is tax exempt. So once we are incorporated at the state level, once we have our IRS determination letter, we are not taxed on those things and revenue that comes in that are directly linked to the reason why we are starting and why we have our 501c3 status. Okay, so most of the income is tax exempt. However, there is something called unrelated business income tax. Okay, UBIT for short. That is revenue that is generated from those activities that are considered profit-like or trade-like, that are not expressly linked to the reason for your 501c3 status. Okay, so we can engage in those activities, but the IRS puts $1,000 cap on that in your fiscal year. So if you exceed $1,000 by bringing in these revenue generating activities that are considered a trade or a for-profit activity, you will be taxed on the excess of that $1,000. Okay, I don't want to go too deep into that, but a major advantage is that we do have tax exemption at the federal level, and we have tax exemption at the state level as well. If you're making purchases on behalf of the organization, you present your tax exempt card in the state in which you're incorporated, and you won't be charged tax for those things. Also, your donors get a tax advantage as well. Now, with the current change in the tax laws, though, and let me put this disclaimer out there, I'm not a CPA, okay, but the changes to the tax law has changed the itemized deductions. So our standard deduction is higher now. So for some taxpayers, it's not beneficial any longer to donate to the charitable organizations because the standard deduction is so high. But people are still giving. So there's still that tax advantage. It just may not be as great in past years. But the most important advantage, Joan, is the fact that we have an opportunity every day to bless someone through the work that we do.
Yes.
Like that supersedes everything for me. The money is good, but if we can go to sleep at night knowing that we made a positive impact on somebody, the world,
Yes.
community, whatever, that is a check mark in our book.
Absolutely. I agree with you 1000%. I agree with you. So with that being said, how do you know when it's time to launch? What's those indicators that it's time to launch?
Well, I think there's no perfect time, but I believe there's a right time. And it's personal, what's going on in your life. You got to ask yourself some gut check questions. Do I really have the time right now to dedicate to launching and growing this organization? Does the home life work well? Will I be able to get support and things at home not fall by the wayside? Most of us are going to be working during the day. Can we balance that? And it's a hard thing to balance, working full time, being a parent, and being a chauffeur until your child has the car, right? And being everything to everybody else. And then you have to give of yourself to this organization. So look at what's going on in your life. Take a look at your personal finances, because you will have to make some personal investments into the organization for a little while. I can't say for how long, but you have to have a reserve pot of money to get the initial startup going and maybe your first couple of years or so. Then kind of take a look again back at your team. And I keep coming back to the team because the team is required and you need people. So if you can say all of those things align where life is going pretty well and you're able to balance that work-life balance, and you have a team and you have a little bit of money set to the side and you're ready to go, then I say go for it. Take the leap of faith. It took me 2 years to do it, so don't worry about questioning it. But God will also tell you when it's time to launch as well.
Absolutely. So we've talked a lot about launching, starting a nonprofit. And as with most businesses, it's one thing to start. It's a total different ball game to sustain. So
Right.
what are some of the ways to sustain a nonprofit organization?
Okay. So planning is one. You should have a strategic plan. And a business plan works for us as well, but I really believe that the strategic plan is the meat of what we need as nonprofits, so that we can clearly outline how we're going to deliver these services and create impact. Okay, so there should be a strategic plan in place between 1 to 3 years. Next, we need to have a diversified funding strategy. We can't just depend on the public. We can't just depend on Facebook fundraisers. That's a piece of it. So we need donations from the public. The peer-to-peer fundraising is Facebook, is GoFundMe, those types of things. We can host charitable events that we charge for. And let me just say this as well. Everything we do cannot be for free. It just can't be. Unless we're getting multi-million-dollar grants for multiple years. But even still, the grant money may go away. On any given day, grant money is not guaranteed, okay, which is why we have to have this diversified funding strategy. So you can charge for your charitable events. You can charge for programs and services. Now, you have to take a look at your service population when you're trying to decide what that price point is, because it may not make sense for who you're trying to serve, right? So for our Position for Greatness Youth Program, there's a $30 materials fee that's paid annually to be a part of the membership, youth program. But that's a nominal cost because we know who we're serving, right? We wouldn't, charge $200 to be a part of the organization because it doesn't make sense for us. So you have to assess your costs, assess your activities, assess who you're serving to figure out what is the right price point for this program or this service, okay? Then we want to introduce corporate sponsorships. So we want to go to businesses, for-profit businesses, and ask for a sponsorship for your event or your program. So there's been a bit of a shift in the nonprofit industry where all for-profits have a social responsibility to give back. It's called corporate social responsibility. So that's why they give back to us, whether it's through their own foundation that they start or through the sponsorship. But now it's kind of shifting more where the money's coming out of the marketing budget. So our conversation and our ask is changing just a little bit from corporate social responsibility to marketing. So if it makes good marketing sense, there's a larger pot of money there. So sponsorships are still very much a valuable income for us. Then we need to have strategic partnerships. And strategic partnerships help us to create wraparound services for what we're trying to do, because we can't do everything, right? So if you can partner with other organizations that brings a skill set that you don't have, then you can create that wraparound experience. You guys can go in on grants together, and especially if that organization is more veteran, that gives your organization more credibility because you've partnered with this older, more solidified organization, okay? Then we want to make sure that we have programs in place. We can't just be doing events all the time, okay? Grantors do not fund events. They fund programs that provide long-term solutions, to problems that we have identified. They want to know that that $1 million grant that they're giving you is going to do some good, and it's not going to be for a one-time event, okay? That's solely left for sponsorship and charitable events, okay? Last, we need a board that gives. Every board member should have a financial commitment to the organization. That helps to support programs. Especially in the beginning, it will help you to support those operational costs like insurance and website and PO box and your marketing materials. So just to recap: grants, charitable events, sponsorship, a board that gives consistently and on time, strategic partnerships, and programs.
Okay, awesome. So I know that you have like several different programs, topic matter that you train on as it relates to the nonprofit sector. So share with us, what are some of those trainings that you personally offer?
Sure. So if you're thinking about starting, I have a nonprofit startup class that takes a deep dive in everything that you need to know. And I've alluded to most of that tonight. Next would be the board recruitment process. Who do we need? And we take a strategic approach to that and figuring out, based upon your mission, those skill sets and talents that you possess. We need to figure out who possesses talents that you don't possess in those skill sets. So I take a strategic approach with clients on that. Next, we move into board development training. After they've said yes to learning more, We then want them to make an informed decision, an educated decision before saying yes to serve. So I take a deep dive into the roles and responsibilities of board members. That's the training that you all received. Then I provide compliance training. So like you said, it's one thing to launch, it's another thing to sustain. It's also another thing to stay compliant. So there are things that we need to do at the federal level and the state level to make sure that we are in compliance so that all this good work we're doing doesn't fall by the wayside because we forgot to file something or because we're not doing our due diligence, right? So then we move into talking about social media strategy, how to find volunteers, how to prepare for your first board meeting. That's a major, major lift. There's a lot that you all have to cover there. And then there are other programs that I actually have where there's a startup program and you get all of those trainings all rolled up in one. So those are a few of the trainings that I provide. And I just added conflict of interest training to my training package as well.
Okay, so let me play a good advocate because I'm not going to say a devil's advocate. I'm going to play a good advocate here. So let's say someone has gone through your program, ready to launch and, you know, followed all the steps and everything. Once you provide those trainings, are you further involved with them, such as their grand opening day, or do you follow through with your clients, and how?
I do, yes. So a part of the startup program is we talk about the launch party, what we want it to look like. This is the good conversation. I love helping them to plan this stuff because I like a good party. So I attend my clients' launch parties if I'm available. Every client that launches with me, even after our time is over, they get added to an exclusive email list where I send them sometimes random stuff, or you need to be at this event, or here's a workshop, or here's a grant opportunity, or just something so that they continue to receive that support from me. And I guess you can call it a mentorship because they're not paying me for it. And I do it because I know what they're going through. I know that it can be overwhelming. I send them reminders at the top of the year to say, hey, don't forget to file this and don't forget to do that. Or if we're at the end of the year, I will send them out a year-end checklist. So I stay in contact with all of my clients. I'm a creeper because I follow most of them on social media. So I'll pop in the inbox and say, hey, you may want to change that. Or, you know, so we have that back and forth. So my clients will always have access to me simply because I know exactly what they're going through. And if I can help them in any sort of way, I will.
Okay. So we're nearing the end of tonight's program, but there may be just that one person maybe listening live right now or will be listening to the replay who may want to start a nonprofit, but they're just on the fence with that. They're just undecided. They're not sure. What would you tell that person now if you want to start a nonprofit? What advice would you give to them as far as from a motivational standpoint?
Mm-hmm. From a motivational standpoint, the world needs what you have to give. And I know that sounds very cliche-ish, but it's very true. We all possess something that can help other people.
Mm-hmm.
Our trials and our tribulations make us who we are, and there are lessons that are learned. And as we learn those lessons, there are other people who are struggling with everything that we're struggling with. And I'll just go back to my personal story. I know that there are single parents that struggle just to make ends meet. I know what it's like to have a single income. I know what it's like not to have a circle of people who can support you. I know other single parents suffer with that. So who am I to sit on what God gave me and not to help other people? So if he gave you the vision, he wants you to execute it. It's not going to be easy, but again, if he gives you the vision, he will definitely give you the provision. The people will come, the work will come, the money will come. Take the leap of faith and build it on your way down.
With that being said, how can one find you, follow you, track you down? Come on, give it all. Facebook, LinkedIn, everything, every social media outlet, please share with us.
Yes, Facebook, I'm at Jamila Kemp, JAEMELLAH. Our business page is Jamila Kemp Consulting. LinkedIn, I'm on Jamila Kemp. Instagram, I'm Jamila Kemp Consulting as well. Website is www.jamilakempconsulting.com. Phone number is 410-431-08 829. And email is jkemp@jamilakempconsulting.com.
There you have it, viewers. You cannot say that you don't know how to find her. So, Jamila, I just want, of course, everybody can tell by now that I just make up my whole name. I'm supposed to be saying Jamila, and I'm just giving you my own version, but hey, blame it on my accent. Hey, I could always get away with that. Oh, it's my Jamaican accent. But anyway, so I thank you so much for dropping these very important nuggets tonight. And I'm sure that someone watching the replay will definitely get something out of it. And for those who are watching or will be watching, please share this video in your network. Okay, please help us to promote this recording so that people in your network, your family member, your friends can really get this kind of very valuable information so that they too can take their business or their dreams to another level. So like Jamil has said, it's not going to be easy. Nothing was ever promised to us to be easy. We got to put in the work to make everything that we want successful. Because remember, it takes both rain and sunshine to build a rainbow. Okay, so you got to put in the work to make your life's goal, your dreams, your everything successful. You got to put in that work. So I invite you to join me next week at the same time, same network, for another amazing broadcast. And my special guest will be Dr. Fred Newsom, who is also a mayoral candidate for Baltimore. He's going to be on next week. So please don't miss that. We have some exciting news that's coming in that broadcast. So please tune in, tune in, tune in. And lastly, I would like to ask you please to subscribe to my new YouTube channel, which is simply Influential Thursday. And so that's where I will be archiving all these amazing events. So it's like a one-stop shop for, you to always go back and reference and get some of these wonderful information. So please subscribe to Influential Thursday. Again, Miss Kemp, I think I messed up your other name enough. Let me switch gears now, Miss Kemp. Thank you so much for taking time out of your schedule to meet with me. It's probably past your bedtime, but who's counting? Thank you so much for, being my guest here on Influential Thursday.
Thank you for having me.
You are quite welcome. So listeners, viewers, I will catch you next week, same time, same platform. But until then, you take care and make this $1 million day. Jamaican Joan out.